Here we go. We are back, Yellowhammer Nation. It's Yellowhammer Radio. At YHN Radio on Twitter. Check us out online, yellowhammernews.com. Follow all the news of the day from Yellowhammer. So much on there. Some great articles up today, yellowhammernews.com. Check out all the great stuff on there. Joined in studio now by our friend Cord Sachs, who joins us each and every single Tuesday. Cord Sachs, of course, the founder of Fire Seeds, and it's a pleasure to see you here in studio with us today, Cord.
Yes, it's good to be back in the studio with you.
I'm glad to have you back, man. We've had some really good conversations over the past few weeks, and I'm looking forward to continuing that on today.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're gonna pick right back up. We talked about the millennial myths, 5 of them, and we got through 3 of them, and.
Yep.
You know, you being our resident expert here, I know you barely made the cut by a couple years.
I'm glad you mentioned barely.
Yeah,
okay, I'm on the upper end, guys.
But you are officially a millennial, Scott.
That's correct.
You need to.
I embrace it.
You embrace your identity.
Right.
He's not nearly as hard on his own generation, I think, but it hasn't stopped Dave from calling him a snowflake.
Yeah, I'm no snowflake. Now, some of them are, Cord. Some millennials are snowflakes.
Yeah, but and that's why we're having this talk, because there's a lot of negative press that these millennials get,
Exactly.
and so we're debunking the 5 myths. So let me put everyone in context here. Everybody that's listening are probably going to fall into one of 3 generations.
All right.
1946 to 1964. You guys are the boomers. You know, if you can't do the math, that's about 53 to 71, 55 to 71, depending on the studies. 1965 to 1980, you're the Gen Xers. That's what me and Andrea, we fall in the Xers. And then the young buck across the table here is 1981 to 2000. That's our millennials. So 17 to 39-ish millennials. That's where we sit. So our listeners are in one of those categories.
And Dave's a boomer, so we're completely covered here.
We got it covered. So I can see lack of hair there gives you you're a card-carrying boomer. So good. So we covered the first 3. You know, and really, if you think about it, the first 3 myths. Number 1, millennials are entitled. You pushed back on that pretty hard there, Scott. They're disloyal. They're independent. They don't work well with teams. Those are the first 3, and we debunked those.
Right.
Those are not true, and we talked about why. And so we're going to pick back up. And I got to give credit where credit's due. Gabrielle Bosch has a great book called The 5 Myths of Millennials, and she debunks these and goes into depth. So I encourage you to grab her book. But so we're gonna cover the final 2.
The final 2 today.
Yeah.
Before you get started, Cord, just in the interest of fairness, did the woman who write that, is she a millennial?
Oh, absolutely, she's a millennial. So it's all about she tells her personal story, and she actually consults for Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies on how they hire, how they recruit, and retain millennials, how they evaluate them, just all the processes. I mean, it's 50% of the workforce right now are millennials.
Right.
By 2020, 65% of the workforce will be millennials.
Yep.
So business owners out there, hiring managers out there, you better learn how to attract this generation.
I love working with that generation because they're some of the most creative that I've ever worked with.
They're very creative. Yeah. They're very creative.
So whether you like it or not, this myth, you need to debunk it if you're a business owner, because if 65% of the workforce if that's where we're headed, you've got to be able to, like you said, interact with these people.
Right.
And know what to offer them.
I had a good friend of mine, he's director of sales for a company, and kind of an older company. I can't say who it is, of course, but he said, he always gets in trouble because the older ladies in his office on his team get on to him for texting at work, and they really don't understand that's a formable. That's a piece of communication.
The only way by some standards.
And if he's not on the phone, he's actually not working. He's doing something socially inept because he's texting, even though that's how the majority of us now communicate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So if you had to guess, I mean, what is the one thing that drives our perspective of millennials as it pertains to this square little box that we have in our pocket that's typically never in our pocket? It's always in front of us. What do you think is driving this 4th myth?
Ooh. The 4th myth that we know. Do you want to name it?
Always
right now?
wired. I mean, always connected and plugged in.
always wired, always connected, technology. So the myth is they're just addicted to technology.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And as the example I just gave, and therefore that's unhealthy because, of course, technology is all about fun. It's all about play. It's all about,
Right.
not being productive at work. And so really, the myth is really debunked because they're not. It has nothing to do even with their desire for technology as so much as it does have to do with their desire to be a part of a community.
Right.
They want to be in an authentic community more than anything else. And it's interesting where this comes from because if you think back, we were raised, Gen Xers, by boomers. Boomers came out of post-World War II, and many of the fathers were either absent, they were at war,
Right.
winning our freedom,
Right.
or when they came down, honestly, their emotions were shut down. And so Andrea, we in most cases, Gen Xers experienced a very distant, non-feely, non-emotional parenting. So what did we do as Gen Xers? We said, we didn't get any of that emotional, feely stuff, and we're going to give it.
Yes.
And we're going to swing that pendulum, and we're going to
Yes.
give it to these millennials.
Yes,
And
you
so it's
did.
going to be all about their protection. And I mean, I used to ride my bike down into the neighborhoods across town without a helmet, without a cell phone, and without a tracking device.
Right.
All the time. And I'd come back when it was dark. So now, of course, the
Raised by Gen
parenting-
Xers, that didn't happen for me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. They got to have their helmet on. They got to
Yes.
have their cell phone.
Yes.
There's another tracking device. So we have comforted these millennials
Right.
and sheltered them in such a way to where there's a much more of an emotional connection with the parents and millennials.
Definitely so.
All right. And so when they get out into the workforce, they expect, I want to have that same kind of community that I felt in most cases by my Generation X parents.
Right.
So guess what brings them that, or the perception of what can bring them that? Technology.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's all about socially being connected, and so it's not as much about they want to leverage technology. They
Right.
think they can do things better, faster, more productive, and they are with using technology. But it's really about the social component of being connected. All right. The final myth.
Let's hear it, Cord Sachs.
is that they're just unmotivated. Millennials are unmotivated.
Not
So,
true,
Scott,
though.
are you unmotivated?
No, I'm highly motivated by a lot of things. If more than one thing at a time, which can be burdensome at sometimes.
That's right. And so how do we motivate a millennial? First of all, we've got to realize they're not unmotivated at all, but the way they're motivated is they're motivated through very clear goals that are attached to their unique identity and contribution.
Right.
They need to be empowered. Millennials hate to be micromanaged.
Oh gosh, yes.
All right.
Micromanaging is awful.
Anybody hates to be micromanaged.
Yes.
I mean, they just kind of say things that the rest of us don't say.
Right.
But they detest being micromanaged. And so for them, if we can give them goal-oriented tasks that match their identity and help connect the dots, and then connect the goals to the vision and mission of the company, the bigger cause, millennials want to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
There's 65% of them that are going to be running the workspace. They're going to be running our country. And the awesome thing is they want to change the world.
That's right.
They want to have a huge impact outside of themselves.
So with that last myth that you just busted, it sounds like the millennial has a very specific focused, targeted area they want to work in, but they want to contribute it. It's not all about them. They want to contribute all of that to the bigger cause.
That's right.
The team, the group that they're with.
They want to be in community, and they want to know they're working for a cause, and it aligns with who they are.
Okay. That's great. Good
Very
to know.
interesting stuff. Cord Sachs, it's a pleasure having you in studio, man. Tell people how they can get in touch with Fire Seeds.
Great. Yeah, fireseeds.com. Come check us out. We'd love to connect with you and tell you more.
All right. Cord Sachs with Fire Seeds. A pleasure seeing you. We'll chat again next Tuesday, sir.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
All right, Andrea, final thoughts before we get out of here.
Hey, go love a millennial.
Yeah, hug a millennial today. We could
Yes.
use it every day. Until next time, never forget where you came from. If so, you might not find your way back home.